welcome to day 2, where from our Entrepreneurial Blueprint, where we are converting challenges into opportunities mainly, and where I'm going to today introduce you to some flawless and effortless systems that actually allow you flawless execution. So we're going to talk about how we are actually coming from a vision as an entrepreneur to a victory. And that's something which is really interesting, because a lot of people have a lot of ideas, but it always is a problem to execute, right? So I see a lot of people having fantastic ideas, but when it comes to execution, that becomes where the challenge starts, because to make things happen, we have to make things happen. So we have to take massive action. So I want to basically kick off where we left off yesterday, because I can't stress that enough, that the brand actually is something that's the key to your success, the first key to your success. So you have to present yourself as the go-to authority in your space. That is one of the keys I wanted to stress again, starting today. And why do I stress it when we're talking about systems? Because your systems are going to be all around your brand core, your brand identity. So you need to make sure that your systems you're going to actually implement in your business to flawlessly execute whatever you want to be. So if you want to be a consultant, right, you have to have a very flawless execution in terms of your courses and your content you're offering. If you want to be somebody who's delivering a product, your product has to definitely create some transformation in the person's life or some fantastic feelings. So it's very important that you actually position your brand in a way that is understood, and then create a system that does support your brand. So what are you going to, do you actually want to be known for? I would love to, I'm actually very curious what you're going to tell me about that. We want to be known for that one thing that makes you different, right? Don't try to argument 5, 10, or 10 things that make you different. You need to have that one thing that makes you different, and that you have to communicate very well in your brand core, in your brand identity. I spoke about that yesterday extensively. So then the other thing is, are you really talking to your ideal client? So you have to tweak your brand messaging towards your ideal client, and you have to be very clear who your ideal client is. Do not try to serve everybody. It's not going to work. The tighter you kind of target your target audience, the more successful you will actually become in having a conversation with them. That is super key. So, and that's tricky, right? I have a lot of clients who offer fantastic either services or also products, but what we always find is they try to talk to everybody, because yes, their product indeed can cover a lot of people, but this is not what you want. What you want is you want to have actually a distribution with depth, as I call it. So you have to go deep into your target audience, because these are the guys who are going to recommend you and give you the testimonials you need. So if you want to discover your next shift to your next level of income, you can always get in touch with me in a free 30-minute orientation call, of course. And that's where we'll always cover the branding, and we'll always cover the transformation. Remember how we spoke about the transformation you're going to offer to your clients. So branding is not only about logos or colors. I am going to ask my assistant to be so kind. I saw something on LinkedIn today which actually works really well with what we're trying to convey here. Rohit, are you able to share your screen and show that little video we saw on LinkedIn?
Yes.
And just give us a second. Thank you so much.
Okay.
You have to click on that image, Rohit, and that image. It will play. I hope everybody can see it. Can you see it? It's not working.
It's an image, basically.
No, it's not. I saw it before. It's actually a whole little movie which is playing. So I don't want to waste anybody's time. So if you get the chance, we will be happy to share that LinkedIn post in our comments. So you can look at that. This is actually a very good wrap up of whatever we shared yesterday about branding and about transformation. So it's actually about that a logo is not the brand. The key of that message as well is that branding is not the color, is not the logo. It's about a feeling that creates, right? How do people perceive you as a brand? How do they trust you and how do they remember you? So your brand message should stop people in their tracks in a perfect world, right? And they need to feel something. So remember, feeling comes first, logic follows. So you do have to cover those two levels, right? You can't only talk to the feeling. You can, but first talk to the feeling and then let the logic follow, because the mind starts thinking, right? You have a perception of a brand, but then your mind goes, okay, do I really need that? So you also need something for the logic. So remember, the feeling comes first, logic will follow, but you have to speak to both, and that you have to do in the right order. The 3C, I call it the 3 C's of a magnetic brand. It's a very very common concept actually, but it's kind of nice because every one of us can remember three items, right? The first C stands obviously for clarity. So do people really directly understand what you're offering and why it matters, right? Why it matters to them, not to you. Remember, we're not talking about the features, great features of your product. Why does it matter to your customer? Do you have actually, and that's the second C, do you actually have a messaging that connects with your clients, right? That's the other thing. So do you have an emotional connection and do you have a logical connection? That's what we just covered. Do you speak directly to their desires or to their challenges or struggles? That's kind of the other C, second C, right? So we have the clarity as a first C. Be clear. We have a connection. Are you sure you're transmitting a connection with the messaging you're using? And the third one is confidence, right? The C in confidence is, are you actually standing out as an authority in your field? Or are you just one of the lots who is going to blend in bluntly, as we say, without edges, and you're not standing out? So make sure standing out is important. And again, what does that mean? If you stand out, you're potentially going to create some not great experiences as well, right? So because standing out means you're going to have some resistance from other people, but you want to attract your ideal clients. So don't worry too much about the ones who might not like you, but do focus on the ones you're trying to serve and focus on them successfully. So your brand message needs to be that clear and catchy that actually your audience will remember it. Actually, the best is word after word, right? So the best, obviously, the best, one of the better slogans is just do it, right? We all know what it's about. That's like that's a perfect thing, but that's obviously a product related line. So I call it the grandma test, or you could also call the 6-year-old test. If the 6-year-old child or your grandma doesn't get what you're doing, or if what your brand is standing for, it's not simple enough. So make it super simple. Don't make it complex. And it needs to be one line. If you can't say it in one sentence, it's too complicated. So keep rewriting that brand message, fill it with emotion, and make sure you have a communication that addresses both the emotional part and the logical part. Now, I typically, and it's already too long, right? But like one of mine would be, I help ambitious entrepreneurs turn their expertise into powerful money-making brands with no guesswork, something like that, right? So that would be one of mine, but it's already too long, right? So I'm not sure you're going to remember it after this call. So that's definitely failing my own test here. But it's just a good reminder for you to be really, really aware that a brand message has to be something catchy, but still something relatable. That's what I want to share here again. So your brand, that is the core, the brand identity, a business identity you have, the brand identity you create, and the messaging and the transformation you actually provide to your client for your client's upside is something you have to make very clear. Now, what I really want to talk to you about today as well is branding is a core part, right? But there is something crucial in today's world. We have to build systems. And why do we have to build systems? Because we are all actually under fire, under siege, as I always say, of incredible information requests, demands, and speed, right? So if you, I mean, a few years ago, no, not a few years ago, 20 years ago, you would send a letter, and the letter from Europe to the US, for example, would take 10 days. Then the person would open it. It would think about it for 5 days. So that's 15 days. Then he sends the letter back with an answer, which is another 10 days. So we're talking 25 days. Then came the fax, right? That was already quicker. But the fax was okay. You had to get the fax. You had to read the fax. Then you had to post a reply. Then, okay, that maybe turned it down from 25 days. You went down to maybe 5 days. And today you send an email or you send a direct message and you're going, why didn't he answer me, right? And it has to all happen within no time. So the speed we're experiencing and the inflow of information we're having to deal with every day is amazing. And you will only be able to sustain a business if you actually can build systems that streamline your operations and free up your time, right? So your business must be running like a well-oiled machine. And the key is it has to even do that when you're not there. So the question becomes, are you busy or are you productive? So I mentioned it yesterday. I don't really like that sentence, work smarter, not harder. But it is kind of true because you have to have systems that do run your business efficiently without you doing everything. I am not saying without you doing anything, but without you doing everything. Now, what is actually the difference between being busy and being productive? So busy means you're constantly putting out fires, you're multitasking typically, and you're reactive. You're reactive, and when it comes to market needs, you're tactical, right? You're not strategic, meaning you don't really have a long-term plan. You're going, oh, there's an opportunity. Let's grab this. I am not saying that you shouldn't take up low-hanging fruit. But if that's the way your business survives, that is not the right way to build a sustainable business, right? That's busy. That's busyness. So busy means constantly being in this quick time turnaround. Being productive means you're going to focus on high impact activities that actually grow your business. What does that actually mean, right? So high impact activity is something where, you know, if I do this today, in 2 months, it will end up, that's my result I want to see, right? That's something that's really relevant. And how do you kind of differentiate those two? So one is typically the short-term busyness is, let's put out a fire. Let's make sure it doesn't cost too much money and too much time. The longer term, so the productiveness comes in where you say, okay, I want to grow my revenue over the next 18 months. And these are the steps I have to follow. So it does actually follow a very clear plan. And that's what makes you productive. My clients, I always tell my clients in their busyness, how many tasks did you do today which actually were relevant for your revenue or for your profit, right? If you are able to actually, as a business owner, focus on the things that are relevant for revenue and for profit during a day, that's a very good indication to increase your productivity rather than staying busy. Now, sometimes people ask me, so Peggy, what is actually the best strategy? And let me just, before I go into the next system here, there's actually only one strategy you need. There is only one essential strategy, frankly, in business. And that is building a successful business needs only two things. You need to attract and cultivate your audience or your clients, and then sell to them, right? You attract and cultivate your audience and sell to them. And you do it all over again. You attract and cultivate your clients and you sell to them. That's all you have to do for a successful business. That's all the strategy you need, right? Now, what are the 3 key systems around that? So the first thing we need to attract those clients. For some of you, which are maybe not so hands-on with the vocabulary, in the new marketing world, it's called lead generation. So you do need a lead generation. What is a lead generation? A lead generation system is, how do I bring new clients into my sphere as a business, right? Into the business sphere. So how do new clients find my business? How do new clients find me? How do I best build my audience? So you need to have a system for that. You need to have a lead generation system. You need to have a client generating system. And to the second point is, you need a sales and conversion system. I mean, the worst is if you generate a lot of leads, happens, by the way. So I have some clients who generate a lot of leads, but then they're not able to retain the clients, or they're not able to convert the leads they generated into sales. And sales is one of my big items. I love that subject. I have been working in that sphere for a long time. And you need to be able, in a good sales process, you turn those clients into paying clients, right? So you turn those leads into paying clients. That's what you need. So you generate the leads, and you have a lead or a conversion system that actually turns those leads into paying clients. Now, obviously, there is a third step, which is not part of a strategy. It's part of what actually then happens. Now you have to deliver, right? And there's also something I want to share on that one. The delivery is key. So you need to be you have to ensure consistency, and you have to ensure a high quality of service without you burning out, right? So think about when you offer something. So you create a lead, you offer it, you close the sale. Now make sure that you have a delivery system in place and a structure in place that can actually deliver without you burning out. And that is scalable, meaning that you can sell it to multiple leads, right? So you need a process for that as well. So let me repeat. So the strategy you need to understand is, all you need to do is attract, cultivate your audience, so your clients, and then sell to them. And the 3 things you have to do is generate a lead for yourself, for leads for your business. So you can automate that today. If you want to, you can. There's great measures to do that. And then you have to have a sales system in place that actually converts those leads into paying clients. And the third thing you then have to do is deliver. And do never, ever overpromise and underdeliver. So that's a really important step you have to follow, because once you overpromise and underdeliver, you will have lost a client. And we all know one thing, maybe I'll share it again here. Once you have a client, it's much easier to sell something else to that same client than bringing a new client in. What do I mean? Bringing a new client in typically costs money and time. So once you have that client, make sure you take good care of that client, you deliver as promised, and this client we're back to the trust factor I spoke about yesterday. And this client, because he trusts you, will buy from you again. That means retaining clients. That's the same for products. If somebody is happy with the product, you can count on it. They will always come back to that product. If it's a brand they trust, they'll come back. So it's much easier and cheaper for you to take really good care of those existing clients than creating new leads. Now, if you're building systems that streamline operations and free up your time, there's something here that must serve you as an entrepreneur. Because if you feel stuck working in your business all the time, then working on it, that's a clear sign that there is something going on which you want to avoid in the future. And why is it important? Because if you're busy, not necessarily productive, working in your business instead of on your business, you're not able to progress. You're not able to progress with your business. You're not able to think about relevant tweaks you have to do for the future. So make sure to start thinking about the things where you need to free up your time. And that's typically the things which keep you busy. So systems must serve you to turn chaos into clarity. You have to make sure things run smoothly, and the things which are repetitive, that's the things you want to start delegating outwards or systemizing. What do I mean with that? Let me give you some examples. So, for example, if you have a consumer-based product, right? I work with some pet food companies. They would always have the same FAQs. How do I change the food of my dogs? How do I, what's the effect on the gut of it? Whatever. So it's their repetitive questions. So what you do there, you use an FAQ, right? So you use an FAQ system, which actually helps the people to get answers pretty quickly. And it's that's kind of the thing. Sorry, my dogs are making a ruckus here. That's the thing which is really, really crucial. Automate the things you can automate, and these are typically repetitive tasks you can automate. Also, as an entrepreneur, you cannot hold on to every task. You know how it is with all of us. Any one of us, doesn't matter if it's an entrepreneur or whoever it is, we are actually struggling to letting things go, mostly because there are things we like doing, right? So there are things we like doing, and there are always things we don't like doing. These are typically the things we're procrastinating on. And to kind of educate you to let go of those tasks, you have to start delegating, and you do it in small steps, right? So you can handle, for example, low impact tasks like administrative work or inbox management, or also scheduling. So a typical thing is scheduling. You can also use SOPs. What does SOP stand for? It's a standard operation procedure. So it's a document that actually defines step-by-step instructions, how things need to be done. That helps people perform repetitive tasks in always the same way and avoiding mistakes. We're in the fulfillment part here. And of course, you can totally outsource smartly. There are lots of platforms today like Upwork or Fiverr that help you find skilled freelancers, for example, if you want to, for example, delegate repetitive tasks in a container of a project, for example. I have used those, and actually it works really nicely. I will come back to that delegation part in the leadership segment, but that's really an important part. So let me repeat this. You have to start delegating. Do not hold on to every task, and just be smart about repetitive tasks, systemizing those. Why is systemizing so important? Because in order to scale, meaning to grow or to make your next step, I work a lot with medium-sized, large companies to figure out how do we best take the next leap to the next growth level, right? So that's scalability. What we need to do is we need to scale the things that work, and we need to get rid of the things that don't work. How do I know that something doesn't work? It either costs money, or it costs time, or it doesn't create any revenue, right? So if you repeat something manually all the time, that's a clear sign that you need a system. So make sure that you observe what you have in your business that keeps repeating itself. That's always done. I had a conversation the other day with a client who said, "Oh my God," and then it was about a forecasting tool. And this forecast, and it takes one of our people like a day to update this forecast. So we figured out a way that she can actually have a macro designed. It's a one-time cost, but now this macro is doing that job of the person. Now she just won. She invested once, but she won a lot of time. So 4 days a day is a month, right? So in actually getting this repetitive task taken care of pretty easily. Now, if you want to discover your greatest time waster in your business, I am happy to offer you a 30-minute free orientation call, and we'll figure that one out, because every one of us has those, and I've had a lot of help detecting mine, and we're still in the learning process here. Now, there is a big difference between being an entrepreneur and being self-employed. And I want to clarify this. Somebody who's self-employed is having a stressful job without an employer, without the advantage of being kind of safe and having all the social costs paid or whatever. So if you're self-employed, you have a stressful job, but you're not an entrepreneur. Because if you're self-employed, that means your business cannot function without you. So you don't have a business because it's highly dependent on you. So make sure that you start automating, delegating, and systemizing to make that self-employment, to convert that self-employment into a business structure that actually is scalable. Otherwise, you're going to be lost in the weeds. What does it mean? Smart systems mean something really relevant. It's not only about revenue. Actually, the biggest good, the most valuable goods we all have is time, right? Because time is the one thing that does never come back. So the half an hour, the hour you spend on watching me here, giving you that speech or that masterclass, will not come back. So I have to deliver value for you. Otherwise, you will probably say, oh my God, I lost that time, and that time is not coming back. Money comes and goes, but time doesn't. So smart systems allow for more time. They allow for investing your time smarter. You will typically experience less stress, and you will have a much more scalable success. So automate busy work, delegate like an entrepreneur, and systemize your business for smooth operations. One of the big parts, and I want to this is kind of the flow going into this whole leadership part, is if you have a team, you have to actually align your team with a clear vision. And that clear vision has to spark motivation. Motivation is a key, is the fuel, right? Nobody works well without motivation. That's the inner fuel we want to have people experience while they work for you. Is that possible every day? Potentially not, but that's something really key. So you have to be clear where you want to go. So you have to really articulate your business goals in one sentence to the people so that they really know what they're striving for, right? Let me repeat that. I mentioned that yesterday. Confusion is the enemy when we're talking about business. And this is the same here. Confusion, if your team is confused about where you want to go, they're not going to create the results you want to actually create. The other thing is, do the people know their roles? Does every person know what they're responsible for and what they're accountable for? That's two different things. But there must be very clear performance metrics in place. We talked about that yesterday quickly. Key performance indicators are one of those, are part of those. Basically, are there clear performance metrics in place to make people accountable, right? So if they know what they're responsible and accountable for and you measure it, you can lead it. Remember what I said yesterday, if you don't measure it, you don't master it. So make sure you have clear accountability. A big part of one of the last companies I ran as an entrepreneur was I had a big sales force, and that sales force, we worked on very clear sales fundamentals. So as you know, sales force is always outside in the field, and we had very clear KPIs in place to make sure that we're actually all working towards the same goal. And that's kind of following that route, right? So I was very clear on the business goals with them. So they knew the goals. They knew the role they had to play, right? They knew their responsibilities, and I held them accountable for the results we agreed on. So, and we put metrics in place and measured them every month. So, and kind of, we tweaked it, and what can we do better? It's not about the metrics are not about pointing fingers. It's about looking at what's working and what's not working. So that's what we did in that business, and it worked actually really well. Sales organizations without clear KPIs typically don't perform. Now, the way we show up is actually the most important, right? The way you show up as a leader will finally determine your business success. So if you show up as somebody who really creates, is with the team, is clear, is communicating very clearly, has very clear measures on accountability, you will actually rock your business, right? There will always be ups and downs, but that will determine your energy, and the way you show up will actually determine your success in the end. And it's not only a motivated team is not only about pep talks, right? It's about clarity, alignment, and ownership. So we have to make very, very sure, again, that we're clear, no confusion, that we are aligned, and that everybody owns a part of the success. And that's where the accountability comes in, which we just spoke about. So the three ingredients you want to keep up when you have a team is you want to make sure you have clarity in place. Let me repeat that. You want to make sure you have ownership. So people work much harder for what they own. If a department manager knows he owns the department's success, he will be much more conscientious of his work, and he will be much more committed to what he is doing. So the job is not to micromanage people like that, it's to empower. So give your team the space to make decisions and take that ownership. That is one of the key items. I have experienced in a lot of companies that's not the case. So there's lots of cases you have confusion. So the team really doesn't know what does the board want. Should we go B2B? That's a good example. I'm just living that. Should we go B2B? Should we go B2C? That's the first confusion. So how do you expect the team to decide? So it has to be very clear where we're going. And then the next thing is, okay, we're going here. This is the road. This is the path, right? Now I empower you, Mr. Marketing Director, to make this happen. Now you're in charge of creating the leads. You know where we're going. So define the ideal client, talk to the ideal client. So you empower the person by actually giving them the accountability for that part of your business. That means you have to trust, right? You have to be very clear in delegating those, not only the tasks, but you're delegating the responsibility. And then you have to go ahead and encourage that initiative. So you want your team to solve problems instead of waiting for permission. I have another client. It's funny, I've never experienced it in that extreme manner, but there is actually somebody where I observe within the whole team, they're delegating upwards. How does that work, right? So that means one of the layers basically goes to the manager, goes, oh, I have a problem. And that manager goes, oh yeah, leave it with me. I'm being a bit black and white here, right? But leave it with me. We will take care of it. And then that manager goes, oh, actually to the next manager, right? Oh, we have a problem here. So it goes on. So basically I call it delegation upwards. What does that actually show us? It shows us that there might be a clear business goal, but there is definitely no one who's empowering them or delegating the responsibility, empowering the team to take responsibility and make them accountable for the result they create. So you want to encourage that initiative, that people actually solve their problems themselves, try to solve them themselves. If they get really stuck, of course, they should always come and talk. But I have a very good sentence for that. I always say, do you have a solution or are you part of the problem, right? So make sure that people use their resourcefulness. There are so many smart people out there. A lot of times you just have to empower them. And then once you have a win, let's make sure we celebrate those wins. Because that's the other thing. It's a bit like gratitude in our personal lives. We have to celebrate wins. We can't only be there and go, okay, we need more revenue, or we want more revenue, we want more profit. It's, oh, wow, you did close that client you were working on for the last 6 months. Congratulations. It's little things like that, which you want to celebrate in a company. And that's part of the culture, and that's something leadership should also do. So stop babysitting and start leading would be my tip on this one. So let's find out how you can lead your team to peak performance. And you can obviously book a 30-minute free call with me to figure that one out. because peak performance is actually something that will get your business. It's one of the drivers which will get your business to the next growth spurt the quickest way possible. So I really recommend that. As I said, leadership is transferred emotion, so it's energy. So your team typically mirrors your energy. If there's very little energy, your team will have very little energy. So bring that clarity, bring that excitement, and believe, right? So you have to be enthusiastic for your vision, because how do you expect somebody to be enthusiastic for your vision if you're not, right? And you have to communicate that with confidence. And one thing I want to also stress, the communication you have needs to be transparent and clear. So you know how a lot of people talk about company politics, and I see it a lot. And as the smaller the company is, the more challenging it becomes, because you start having those little clusters of, it's almost like a family, but it's not. And we all know there are some challenges within families too like that. So the only way to do that, have a very open and transparent communication. Try and keep emotions in check. What I mean by that is try and separate the facts from the emotions, right? There are some situations which are emotional, which is totally fine. Sometimes people have to get that emotion out of their system, and it happens in the business world as much as it does in less, hopefully, as in the personal world. But in business, it's really important to then say, okay, got it. Okay, now we heard you. Right? You were venting, fine. Now let's take the facts out of that situation and try and look at those. So make sure to kind of separate in a business framework, separate the emotion as much as you can from the facts. You have to also lead by example. I used to have a boss where I was still employed. That's a long time ago, 21 years ago. He had 3 sons, and he said, actually, I don't have to educate my children because all they do is copy me. I'm not saying this works like that in a company, but you are going to lead by example. So if you want your team to be all in, you have to be all in. If you're spending most of your time on a golf course, good for you. But I hope somebody else is in the company who can lead by example, because it's really, really important. And that has nothing to do with working on your business. You don't have to work in your business to lead by example, but you have to be all in. And for them to be all in, you need to be all in. So that's one of those very important takeaways. I can tell you from all my work I did during the last 20 years, the companies which were thriving the most were the people where the leader was all in. Now, leadership, I want you to remember, is not about being the boss. It's about creating an environment where people want to bring their best. So if you're a good leader, if you feel that everybody wants to bring their best, now does that always work? No, because even if people want to bring their best, things go wrong. And also there you have to have a culture around, there was a problem or I made a mistake. People have to be able to actually come to you and admit that that was a mistake. And you have to be able to accept that and deal with it. That's part of the trust building, because without trust in a team, you will not be a good leader. So again, leadership is not about being the boss. It's about you creating an environment that gets the best out of people and that where they want to do their best. Now, we have talked about leadership in a very big way, because I think this is, if there's one thing that actually drives a company the quickest, is its team, right? And the collaboration, or a potential collaboration. Team doesn't necessarily mean employees. It could also be project managers, or if you have an assistant, or if you are in a collaboration with another company. So team is team, and leadership is always leadership. Leadership starts with leading yourself, right? So that starts with a personal routine in the morning. That means you have to balance your energy, you have to balance your nervous system, you have to show up the best way you can in order to be a good leader. And then there are some hard facts because leadership can be a bit flowy, even though and I shared that with you, very clear rules, and you should apply if you want to be a successful leader. Now, there are some hard facts, like actually makes your company, as an entrepreneur, survive. And I want to share one thing with you I have learned, a painful way as well. It's not the profit and loss statement which actually says anything. It's the profit and loss statement is a movie. I always say, I learned that from a very, very smart finance guy. He said the profit and loss statement is a movie. Why a movie? Because it shows you typically during a financial year, right, from month 1 to month 12, it shows you the financial performance of your business. That's a paper. That's a number on a paper, okay? It's a movie. The balance sheet is not even a movie, it's a picture. Why is it a picture? Because a balance sheet is made on a day, normally the last day of the financial year, and that's the picture of what you have and what you owe. That's the balance sheet. The only thing that really keeps your business alive is cash. What is cash? Cash is all the money coming in and all the money coming out. So you have to look at the revenue, how much money is coming in, and your expenses. Where is the money going? And what your profit margin is, which you see it nicely in your P&L, is what is left after all your costs. What is left after all your costs? So it is indeed relevant to look at your profit and loss statement, the little film we just spoke about, because it will show you the average profitability over the year you had. But what keeps your money alive, the oxygen of any business, is cash, right? And I had to learn that the painful way, because as you can imagine, being over 20 years in business, I had some interesting times with cash flow, right? Cash, I spoke to that yesterday with a big negotiation with my former supplier in one of my businesses. It can be a terribly stressful task. This is why you have to take charge of cash flow management. There is no way in the world that you can actually run a business without that. You know how people say cash is king? It's actually cash flow is king, because a business that doesn't manage its cash doesn't survive. It's not about just making money. It's knowing where your money is coming from and where it's going to, and how to use it wisely. So you have to drive growth, stability, and scalability. Now, those three things is what you need to use your cash for and what you need to have the cash for. If you want to grow, you need cash. If you want to have stability, you need cash. And if you want to scale, right, if you want to multiply whatever you're doing, you need cash. So without cash flow control, you're stuck in a survival mode. And a survival mode, I can tell you from own experience, is terrible. And if you're in survival mode, you're not able to grow. That's one part. You're potentially not able to sleep. And you're not managing your business, right? You're just trying to survive. It's a bit the same. I mean, it's personal. The personal part is the same as personal finances are the same. So there are some key cash flow truths I want to share. Profit is unequal to cash. Let me repeat this. Profit in your P&L, in your profit and loss statement, is unequal to cash. You can be very profitable on paper, but still be cash poor. I can not cover all the levers here, but there are some very clear levers. If you're profitable, you can definitely manage to become cash rich. Definitely in a comfortable way, right? But you still, if you manage your cash badly, you're able to actually become cash poor, even though if you have profit, right? If you have a good profit margin on paper in your profit and loss statement. Revenue is not equal to success. What do I mean? Because revenue is not worth anything. A high revenue is not worth anything if your expenses are out of control, right? It's just not, I mean, if your expenses are here and your revenue is there, that doesn't help you. So you're going to burn cash. That's what you typically have in startup situations. That's also an accepted way. What happens here, you have to kind of build a trajectory. When do you come from a cash burning business operation to a cash neutral operation first, and then build a cash healthy operation? Cash flow is the lifeline. If you do not manage your cash, you do not have a business to run. So this is one of the key parts with anybody I work with. That's one of the parts I look into with my clients, because cash is the oxygen of the business. So you have to master your numbers. What you don't measure, you do not master. So you have to track your expenses, you have to track your revenue, and you have to track your cash reserves. You can use multiple tools. I mean, there's QuickBooks, there's simple Google Sheets. I mean, there's multiple things you can do. But what's really important is you have to look also, where is money leaking? A typical thing where money is leaking, we all know it, is subscriptions, right? It's a repetitive loop of costs coming in. And there's unnecessary expenses too. So make sure that you look into that regularly and check every time. So is this expense really necessary for my business, or is that just a hobby? Because any expense that comes in is going to decrease your cash. The other way, and this is a good lever, is get paid faster. You know, I've been working with big multinationals, and the secret of those big multinationals is only one. There's only one secret they have. Oh, they have actually two. They follow the strategy I presented before. They follow the strategy of, we're building a client base and we're selling to them. We're building a client base and we're selling to them. And the second one they follow is, we get paid faster than we pay, right? Now think about that. So if you give a 60-day payment term to anybody, you're going to wait 60 days for your money. At the same time, if you're buying from somebody and he wants 30 days, right, payment terms, you're already losing 30 days of cash, right? So think about that. All the big multinationals, the thing that manage first-rate management in finance is cash management. And that's something I really want to stress here. It's super important. If you do not track your cash, you don't run your business. So please be very aware of that. And if you want help with that, and if you want to see how you can actually improve your cash with some very simple tricks, you know who to call and you know who to contact. I'm happy to give you a very quick 30-minute run through some very nice levers you can use in your business tomorrow to actually improve your cash flow. You also have to work on building a cash reserve. You should build a cash reserve of about 3 to 6 months of operating expenses. What is an operating expense? Your payroll is an operating expense. Your cost of goods, if you're buying goods, that's an operating expense. So you should have at least a breadth of 3 to 6 months in cash if anything goes wrong. And then, of course, if you're able to create a rainy day fund, as I call it, that's a really good one too. So, and last but not least, cash actually allows you to invest into growth, right? Use the cash reserves to invest into growth. It's not about survival, it's about growing. So cash is the thing you really have to look into. And you have to stop wasting money, time, and the team, right? Your fuel to growth is to watch your time, your team, and your money. And you have to invest your time, your team, and your money in things that create return on investment. So what does that mean? It's a big, you know, you heard the short form ROI. What does that mean? So you want to focus your time and money and your team on things that actually generate revenue, so that create more of those sales, right? More of those sales. You want to cut your costs, and you want to hire strategically. And hire strategically is a very important point. If you're a good leader, you're going to hire the people you need and try and get rid of the repetitive and busy tasks, not by giving it to a team member, but to build those systems we have spoken about, right? To get those automatizations into those flows, because you don't want to waste your money or your personnel on tasks which are very repetitive. Free up that time for your team, free up your cash, for something that actually creates a return on investment, that actually helps you create more revenue. Okay, just to be clear, you will generate cash only by selling, right? So only by generating revenue, but you can burn cash if your costs and your expenditures are too high, or if the timings are off between payables and receivables. Final thought on that: if you do not manage your money will manage you. And that's not a very good place to be in. So you have to be strategic, smart, and make every dollar, any Swiss franc, any euro, anywhere you are in the world, work for you and work for your growth. So you can find out how you can maximize your cash with a few simple tweaks in a 30-minute free orientation call with me too. I'm happy to support that. It's one of my skills I like to put into action, and that's one of the things where I can create massive transformation in a very quick time for a lot of my clients. Now, I want to come to point number 5, the last one, and then we are going to rush through that a bit because it could be a big one, but we can't cover everything in a masterclass. But I want to really give you the top line. The other thing we have here is the next and last point is you have to master negotiation. Life is about negotiating. And what does it mean? A negotiation tactic and your sales strategies are the ones which drive consistent success. That's the two things that drive success. Negotiation or sales is actually, it's very close, right? A negotiation typically happens if you have, for example, a supplier and you want to get a better payment term from that supplier. That's typically where a negotiation comes in. Also comes in with a big client, right? When you have an annual meeting with a client and the client wants more terms, that's a big negotiation you always will have. So there's 3 golden rules to negotiations and sales, and I have mentioned few of those yesterday. So a negotiation, the 3 golden rules of negotiation and sales are basically, the first golden rule is, and people who know me will appreciate me saying that, you have to be prepared. I'm known to be super over prepared. Typically, when I hold big negotiations with typically suppliers or also clients, I'm like hyper prepared, because in my world, 70% of the success is, apart from the psychology you need, is the preparation, right? You can prepare for a big negotiation. You have to sit down and prepare, and you have to know your worth, and you have to know your walkaway number. So the walkaway number is as important as knowing your worth. Why? Because there comes a point where you have to tell the person across from you, sorry, can't do that. And only when you have it in you, so only when it's instilled in you, so you know that, let's say 15% of co-op funds is just the max you can do, and this guy comes up and says, okay, and next year we're planning for your brand to deliver 25% in co-op spending, then you can definitely say, sorry about that. And what you will appreciate that. And what I still to this day do, we can talk about, investments into, building the brand and, supporting the brand and supporting the sellout, or, or create visibility. Fine. What I never negotiate, you're laughing, is financial terms, meaning I never, ever discuss payment terms. So for me, a absolute walk away matter, to the extent that I walk away from deals, and I did that a few times in my life, is I do not discuss payment terms. I have a very clear rule on my payment terms, and that's a walk away. And typically, it only happened to me twice in my whole career that then a customer said, okay, then Mrs. Klein, we have no deal, and then we don't have a deal. So it happens, right? But that's my walk away. That's my walk away. So define your walk away. Also, you have to lead with value. So show, again, we spoke about that yesterday, I'm repeating myself, show what's in it for them. So before you discuss the price, so they know their value, they know the transformation that can expect, and stay confident, right? Silence is a very powerful tool, So let them think before you jump in. So don't go, but just hold your horses and wait, right? And again, selling is not pushing. Selling is about serving the one across from you, right? And knowing how to negotiate your worth. I want to come to a close here. I want to have a quick wrap up because there was lots and lots of content in this today. So you want to have, for a perfect execution or a structured execution, you want to have a plan for growth without madness or chaos. So you should, by the end of today, have now a strong standout brand, right? That differentiates you from the competitors. You should have learned something about automated and streamlined systems. You should have gotten a good grasp on a leadership framework that actually works to align and motivate your team. And you should have a clear handle on your cash flow, right? And last but not least, we covered some of the proven negotiation steps. Now, remember, the secret to scaling is structure plus smart execution. The less chaos, the less confusion, the more freedom you will have. The less madness, the less chaos, the more freedom you will have. Now, by now, you might have realized that there are quite a few bullet points you need to work on to make your business leap to the next level. And you can discover where you will need to create your biggest impact, or where you can create your biggest impact on your income by booking a 30-minute free call with me. Please get back to me via an email. And I'm very happy to welcome you all tomorrow, day 3, where we are going to cover to scale smart. So we're going to go deeper into the scaling process and stay ahead to future-proof your business, because the future comes very quickly. Tomorrow is the future. I thank you for today and for your presence, and it was beautiful to serve you today. Any questions, please address me via an email. Feel free to reach out to us, to me and the team. We're very, very happy to support you, and it was a real pleasure to have you all on the call today. Now, should there be any questions for now, please let me know. You can send me an email or leave a comment in the comment box, and we'll be happy to get back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peggy.
Thank you.